On three, 3, 2. Alright, we're here with Andrew Keane, just did this gig on stage next Web 2009. And Andrew, they say you're the enfant terrible of the Web 2.0 world. Why are you the enfant terrible?
I'm the enfant terrible because I was the only enfant terrible enough to tell the truth, that old media was dying, newspapers were shutting, record labels were shutting, the movie industry is in crisis and nothing's replacing it. What exists, amateur content, isn't viable in economic terms. So I was the only person to state the obvious. Everyone knows it's true. No one had the nerve or the stupidity or the terribleness to actually tell the truth. And since the publication of that book, I've been proved more and more right. The issue is not whether or not media is dying, but what will replace it as it dies. And it's still not clear if there's anything viable.
You just said on stage the only biggest change in centuries is the change of power, shifting power and shifting empowerment. You say the individuals are having the most power at the moment. Could you explain that statement?
We have an increasing weakening of all forms of institutions, from professional to political to cultural, closing of newspapers and political parties, the rise of the individual as the core actor and figure in historical terms. This is empowering and inspiring for many individuals here, but it's also creating more inequality, more loneliness and more anxiety. So there's a good spin and a bad spin. Jeff Jarvis is more optimistic than I am. I'm very fearful that we don't understand the future we're stumbling into. The future is not created by technology. In some senses, the technology is as much a consequence as a casualty of all this as we are. But we're moving into a new world, a post-industrial world, blindly and often thoughtlessly.
Well, is this your definition of crowdsourcing and collaboration with the customer and both users as well?
I would argue that crowdsourcing is itself a relatively inarticulate articulation of what this world looks like. It's interesting, and it's wrong in the sense that it's not really the crowd that's doing the sourcing. When you dig into these models like Wikipedia and Dig, you find a new kind of oligarchy. You find small groups of radically empowered individuals. And as organizations weaken as political parties or libraries or encyclopedias, you have more and more power centered in fewer and fewer people. That's what I'm scared of.
Aren't empowered and organized users called organizations? I mean, it's just the same thing like we did before?
It's not the same thing, because organizations had formal structures. They were relatively transparent. You knew an IBM, you knew a Ford, you knew an Encyclopedia Britannica, you knew a New York Times. Now we don't know who these organizations are. We don't even know who's in them. Look at Wikipedia. Everyone in it is anonymous. It's supposed to be an agency of the crowd. It's supposed to reflect the wisdom of the crowd, but in reality it represents the interests and passions of a small group of people. And you know, Jimmy Wales, love him or hate him, he has become the protector of that small clique of people.
What is your British use and influence you're bringing in your American Web 2.0 vision? What is the British youth you're now combining in your American vision?
I think the British, like the Dutch, are nations of skeptics. We've never believed anything. We're not as childish as the French, who have turned skepticism into philosophy and argued that there is no such thing as truth. That's child's play. But the Dutch and the British are grown-ups in the sense that they always approach things suspiciously. They don't believe in anything absolutely. They're willing to accept some truths, but they're always investigating the real nature of things. The Americans are more evangelical. It must be located in the evangelical foundations of the culture, the evangelical nature of its capitalism, of its colonialization of the West, of its destruction of individual indigenous peoples. And what's missing in America, unfortunately, is a natural culture of skepticism. So Americans are believers. They believe in the internet. And I'm a skeptic. I neither believe nor disbelieve in the internet. I simply